The bridge of the Endeavour was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers. Captain Elena Morrison sat in her chair, staring at the empty star map in front of her. 300 years. That was how long humans had been traveling through space searching for other intelligent life. They had found plenty of planets. They had discovered ancient buildings and old space stations floating in the darkness. But no living aliens. Not one. "Captain, I'm getting something," Lieutenant James Cooper said suddenly. His hands moved quickly across his console. "There's a signal. It's responding to us." Elena felt her heart beat faster. "Open communications. Let's see who our neighbors are." The main screen flickered and changed. Elena leaned forward, trying to understand what she was seeing. The creature on the screen looked nothing like a human. Its body seemed almost see-through, glowing with soft blue and green lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. It had several eyes, all of them focused directly on Elena. "Human vessel," the alien said. The ship's computer translated its words into English. "You must stop your engines right now. You have broken laws that are older than your entire species." Elena glanced at Commander Robert Hayes, who stood beside her chair. He looked just as confused as she felt. "Broken laws," Elena said carefully. "We've been broadcasting our location for centuries. If there was a restricted area, we never received any warning." "You do not understand," the alien said. Its glowing patterns changed, becoming darker. "The restriction is not to keep you safe. It is to keep us safe from you." Nobody on the bridge spoke. The words seemed to hang in the air. "I am Keeper Thomas of the Archivists," the alien continued. "My people have existed for 200 million years. We have watched civilizations rise and fall. We have recorded the history of 40,000 different species. And we have learned one terrible truth: when species from dangerous worlds reach the stars, everything changes." "Dangerous worlds?" Robert stepped forward. "Earth is a normal planet. Our scientists classified it as perfectly average." Keeper Thomas's lights pulsed in what might have been laughter. "Average? By whose measurements?" "Captain Morrison, your world is what we call a Class 12 death world. It is the most dangerous classification we have. Your species grew strong on a planet that tried to kill you every single day." Elena shook her head. "Earth is our home. Yes, it has storms and earthquakes, but—" "Your planet has survived 5 mass extinctions," Keeper Thomas interrupted. "It has frozen completely and burned under runaway greenhouse effects. It has been struck by asteroids that would have sterilized gentler worlds. Your species evolved alongside predators that could crush you with their jaws. You survived diseases that still have no cure. You endured ice ages that lasted thousands of years. And somehow you not only survived, you thrived." The bridge crew exchanged worried looks. Elena had never thought of Earth that way before. "That still doesn't explain why everyone is hiding," she said. "Doesn't it?" Keeper Thomas moved closer to his screen. "Captain, do you know how many spacefaring civilizations currently exist in this galaxy? The real number, not the empty space you have been traveling through?" Elena waited. "Over 12,000, Keeper Thomas said. 12,000 civilizations, and you have met none of them. Do you think that is an accident?" "We hide, Captain. We use technology to make ourselves invisible. We build our homes in pocket dimensions that your sensors cannot detect. We create silent trade networks that leave no trace. We do all of this to avoid species like yours." "We're not monsters," Elena said, her voice firm. "Humanity came to space looking for friends, for knowledge. We want to learn, not conquer." "That is what they all say," Keeper Thomas replied softly. "In the beginning." Elena stood up from her chair. "Then prove it to us. Show us what you're so afraid of. Show us what makes you hide from us like frightened children." The silence stretched out. Elena could hear her own breathing. Finally, Keeper Thomas spoke again. "Very well, Captain Morrison. But I warn you, once you learn this truth you cannot forget it. Once you see what we have seen you will understand our fear. And you will learn that some among us have already voted to destroy your species before you become what you are meant to become." The screen went dark. A moment later, the ship's navigation computer beeped. New coordinates had been uploaded, a location that appeared on no human maps. Elena looked at her crew. She saw doubt in their eyes. Fear too. But also curiosity. "Helm, set a course," she ordered. "Let's find out what secret the galaxy has been keeping from us." As the Endeavour jumped to faster-than-light speed, something changed in the space behind them. Ships began to appear, dozens of them, ancient and powerful. They had been watching, invisible. Now they simply waited, their weapons ready, as the humans flew toward a truth that would change everything. The Endeavour dropped out of faster-than-light travel in front of something that should not exist. Elena stared at the view screen, trying to understand the size of what she was seeing. It looked like a massive ring, but it was so large that entire planets could fit inside it. The structure glowed with soft light, covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to shift and change. "Captain, I'm reading power signatures that are off the scale," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "This thing has been here for millions of years." "Welcome to Archive Prime," Keeper Thomas's voice came through the speakers. "This is where we keep our memories, where we record the truth about the galaxy. Prepare to dock. What you are about to see will change everything you believe." An hour later, Elena and her team walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were transparent, showing stars and nebulae on all sides. It felt like walking through space itself. Keeper Thomas floated ahead of them, his glowing body providing light in the dimness. They entered a vast chamber. Elena gasped. The room was filled with thousands of displays, each one showing images and data. But these were not just pictures. They were memories, recordings, entire histories of civilizations that no longer existed. Another archivist appeared beside Keeper Thomas. This one's patterns were softer, colored in purple and gold. "I am Archivist Mary," she said. "I have studied Deathworld species for 3 million years. What I am about to show you is not easy to witness." Mary moved toward one of the displays. It lit up, showing a species that looked like insects standing upright. They had 4 arms and bodies covered in sharp plates. "The Krell Dominion," Mary said. "They came from a world with gravity twice that of Earth. Predators on their planet could crush steel with their claws. The Krell evolved to be unstoppable hunters. When they reached space, they were magnificent. Strong, intelligent, fearless." The display showed Krell ships spreading across the stars. At first, they met other species peacefully. Then something changed. The images showed battles, planets burning, entire civilizations being wiped out. Within 200 years, they had conquered or destroyed 400 species, Mary continued. They could not help themselves. Their instincts demanded they dominate. They saw cooperation as weakness. "What happened to them?" Robert asked. "They destroyed themselves," Keeper Thomas said. "Internal war. They turned their weapons on each other when there was nothing left to conquer." Mary moved to another display. This one showed creatures that looked like masses of tentacles with too many eyes. The Vrathan swarm. Another Deathworld species. Their planet had oceans so acidic that they dissolved metal. The Vrathan learned to survive by consuming everything in their path. The pattern repeated. The Vrathan reached the stars. They seemed peaceful at first. Then they began to spread like a plague, consuming resources from every world they found. Other civilizations tried to stop them, but the Vrathan were too adaptable. They could survive in any environment, eat almost anything, and reproduce at incredible speeds. "It took a coalition of 50 civilizations to stop them," Mary said quietly. "The war lasted 3,000 years. Entire regions of the galaxy are still dead zones from that conflict." Elena felt sick. "How many Deathworld species have reached space?" 17 that we know of," Keeper Thomas answered. 12 destroyed themselves. 3 were eliminated by other civilizations before they became unstoppable. 2 simply vanished. We believe they transcended into forms we cannot detect. "And humanity makes 18, Elena said. "Yes." Mary brought up a new display. This one showed Earth. Data scrolled past, showing information about humans. Elena read the words and felt a chill run through her body. "Persistence hunters," she read aloud. "Pack bonding instincts. Endurance capabilities beyond normal parameters. Ability to survive on minimal resources. Creative problem solving under extreme stress. Capacity to form emotional attachments to virtually anything. Tendency to weaponize any available materials." "You throw things?" Keeper Thomas said. "Do you understand how rare that is? Most species cannot throw objects with accuracy. But humans can throw with deadly precision. You turned your shoulder joints into weapons. You sweat," Mary added. "You can chase prey for days until it dies of exhaustion. No other predator on your world could do that. You pack bond with creatures that should be your enemies," Keeper Thomas continued. "You domesticated wolves. Wolves. You made friends with apex predators and turned them into companions. What kind of species does that?" Robert laughed, but it sounded nervous. "You're making us sound like monsters." "Not monsters," Mary said. "Just dangerous. Dangerously clever. Dangerously adaptable. Dangerously determined. Your species looks at the impossible and decides to try anyway." Elena walked closer to the Earth display. "So what happens now? You've been watching us for how long?" 50,000 years, Keeper Thomas admitted. Since your species learned to control fire. We have been debating what to do about you ever since. The congregation, Mary said. That is what we call ourselves. 12,000 civilizations, all hidden, all watching. Some want to welcome you. Others want to eliminate you before you become a threat. We have been arguing about humanity's fate for your entire history. And what do you want? Elena asked, looking directly at Keeper Thomas. Before he could answer, alarms began blaring throughout Archive Prime. Red light flooded the chamber. James pressed his hand to his ear, listening to a message from the ship. Captain, he said, his face pale. We're receiving distress calls from our colonies. Multiple human settlements are under attack. Unknown vessels using weapons technology that predates the congregation. Keeper Thomas's patterns went completely dark. That is impossible, he whispered. They should all be dead. Who? Elena demanded. Who should be dead? Mary turned to face them, and for the first time, Elena saw genuine fear in an alien's expression. Humanity is not the first species from Earth to reach the stars, Mary said slowly. There was another. 65 million years ago. And we thought we had killed them all. The chamber fell completely silent. Elena felt like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. She stared at Mary, trying to process what she had just heard. 65 million years ago? Robert repeated. That's when the dinosaurs died. The asteroid that hit Earth. Was not an asteroid, Keeper Thomas said quietly. His glowing patterns had turned a deep, dark blue. It was a kinetic weapon. We dropped it on your world deliberately. Elena took a step back. You murdered an entire planet. We murdered a species, Mary corrected. Not just any species. The most dangerous civilization the galaxy had ever known. They called themselves the Architects. Mary moved to a new display. The image showed creatures that looked like they had stepped out of Earth's prehistoric past. They stood upright on two powerful legs. Their arms were smaller but ended in hands with three sharp claws. Their heads were long and filled with teeth. But their eyes showed intelligence. Cold, calculating intelligence. They evolved on Earth, Mary continued. In a time when your world was even more hostile than it is now. Massive predators everywhere. Volcanic activity. Asteroids striking regularly. The Architects became perfect hunters. They learned to work in packs. They developed tools. Then language. Then mathematics. Then spaceflight. The display changed, showing the Architects building cities, then ships, then spreading across the stars. Elena watched in horror as the story unfolded. At first, they seemed curious about other species, Keeper Thomas said. They asked questions. They traded knowledge. We thought they might be different. We were wrong. The images showed what happened next. Architect ships attacking peaceful worlds. Species being rounded up and enslaved. Entire civilizations disappearing. The Architects built an empire that stretched across thousands of star systems. They did not just conquer, Mary explained. They consumed. They took resources from every world they touched. They experimented on other species, trying to understand what made them weaker than the Architects. They believed they were superior to all other life. Elena felt sick to her stomach. How long did this last? 3 million years, Keeper Thomas answered. They ruled a third of the galaxy. Nothing could stop them. They were too strong, too smart, too ruthless. They turned warfare into an art form. Every species they encountered either served them or died. The congregation held emergency sessions for 200 years, Mary said. We debated every possible solution. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to fight. But the Architects were winning every battle. They were studying our technology and making it better. They were adapting to our tactics faster than we could create new ones. Robert shook his head. So you decided to destroy their homeworld. It was not an easy choice, Keeper Thomas said, and his voice carried genuine pain. We argued for decades about the morality of it. Could we really commit genocide? Could we wipe out an entire species? But every day we delayed, more civilizations fell. More billions died. Mary brought up new images. They showed the congregation's fleets gathering. Thousands of ships from hundreds of different species, all united for one terrible purpose. We built the largest kinetic weapon ever created, she said. An asteroid 10 kilometers wide, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. We aimed it at Earth while most of the Architect fleet was away, conquering new territories. We told ourselves it was necessary. We told ourselves we had no choice. The display showed the impact. Elena watched her world burn. She saw the shockwave that circled the planet. She saw the darkness that followed, blocking out the sun for years. She saw life dying in numbers too large to comprehend. The architects on Earth died within months, Keeper Thomas said. But their fleets were still out there. When they learned what we had done, they came for us. The war that followed lasted another 1,000 years. We hunted them through every corner of the galaxy. We destroyed their ships, their stations, their colonies. We showed them no mercy because they had shown none to others. Eventually we thought we had won, Mary finished. The last architect ship was destroyed 14 million years ago. We believed they were extinct. We were wrong. James pressed his hand to his ear again, listening to more reports. Captain, the attacks are getting worse. They're using weapons that can tear through our shields like paper. Our people are evacuating, but we're losing colonies fast. Elena turned back to Keeper Thomas. They survived. After everything you did, they survived. Yes, he admitted. And they have had 65 million years to evolve. To adapt. To plan their revenge. We took their world. Now they want to take yours. How many? Elena asked. How many of them are out there? We don't know, Mary said. But the energy signatures we're detecting suggest hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. They've been hiding in the deep dark between galaxies, watching, waiting. And now that humanity has reached the stars, they've decided to act. Robert moved closer to Elena. Captain, we need to get back. Our people need us. But Elena was staring at the display showing Earth's death. She thought about the choice the congregation had made all those millions of years ago. She thought about the price of that choice. You created us, she said slowly. If you hadn't killed the architects, mammals would never have dominated Earth. Humans would never have evolved. We exist because you committed genocide. Yes, Keeper Thomas said simply. And now you're asking us to help you finish what you started. No, Mary said. We're asking you to help us save your species. The architects see humans as thieves. They believe you stole their world. They will not stop until Earth is cleansed of mammalian life and they can reclaim what they believe is theirs. Elena looked at her crew. She saw fear in their eyes but also anger. Determination. Set course for the nearest colony under attack, she ordered. Maximum speed. And send a message to Earth. Tell them everything. It's time humanity learned the truth about our past. And about our future. As the Endeavour turned toward home, the architect's fleet continued its advance. Ancient and terrible, they moved through space like a nightmare made real. They had waited millions of years for this moment. And they would not be denied their revenge. The Endeavour arrived at the colony of New Haven to find it burning. Elena watched through the view screen as escape pods fled from the planet's surface. Architect ships hung in orbit like dark angels, their weapons turning buildings into ash and glass. My God, James whispered. There must be 50,000 people down there. Robert corrected grimly. Past tense. One of the architect vessels turned toward them. It was massive, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The design was ancient but the technology was clearly far beyond anything humanity possessed. Weapons that glowed with sick green light swiveled to face the Endeavour. Incoming transmission, James said. The view screen changed. Elena found herself staring at an architect. But this was not the creature from the historical records. 65 million years had changed them. Its body was covered in what looked like living metal. Its eyes glowed with cold intelligence. Parts of it seemed organic while other parts were clearly mechanical. It had evolved into something between flesh and machine. Humans, the architect said. Its voice was like rocks grinding together. Thieves. Parasites. You live on our world. You breathe our air. You walk on ground that belongs to us. Earth belongs to the species that live there now, Elena said, keeping her voice steady. You lost it millions of years ago. You can't have it back. The architect moved closer to its screen. We were driven from our home. We watched from the darkness as the congregation murdered our world. We saw our children die. Our cities turned to dust. And for what? So that small, weak mammals could inherit what we built. You were conquerors, Robert said. You enslaved hundreds of species. The congregation stopped you. The congregation were cowards, the architect hissed. They could not defeat us in honorable combat. So they destroyed our home. They committed the greatest crime in galactic history. And now we will have justice. The transmission ended. The architect ship fired. Elena barely had time to shout a warning before the weapons hit. The Endeavour shook violently. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Shields at 30%, James called out. One more hit like that and we're done. Get us out of here, Elena ordered. Jump to. She never finished the sentence. Space around them suddenly filled with ships. Hundreds of them, appearing from nowhere as they dropped their stealth fields. Elena recognized the designs from Archive Prime. The congregation had arrived. Keeper Thomas's voice came through the speakers. Captain Morrison, fall back to our position. We will handle this. Elena watched as the congregation fleet engaged the architects. It should have been magnificent. These were civilizations millions of years old, with technology that seemed like magic. Their weapons could tear holes in space itself. Their shields could withstand the heat of stars. But they were losing. The architects moved through the battle like dancers. Every shot they fired found its target. Every maneuver put them in the perfect position. They had spent millions of years planning this moment, and it showed. They're not just fighting, Robert said, watching the battle. They're hunting. Like wolves taking down prey. They're Deathworlders, Elena realized. Just like us. They know how to fight because fighting is what they evolved to do. A congregation ship exploded near them. Then another. The architects were methodically destroying the ancient fleet. Mary's voice joined the communication channel, panic clear in her tone. We cannot stop them. We have hidden for too long. We have forgotten how to be warriors. We have technology, but they have something we lost. They remember how to kill. Elena made a decision. James, open a channel to all congregation ships. And to Earth. Captain? Robert looked at her in confusion. Just do it. A moment later, she was broadcasting to thousands of ships and billions of people. This is Captain Elena Morrison of the Endeavor. I'm speaking to the congregation and to humanity. I know what you're thinking. The architects are monsters. They enslaved the galaxy once before. They're trying to destroy us now. But look at this battle. Really look at it. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The congregation has superior technology. Superior numbers. But they're losing. Do you know why? Because they've spent millions of years hiding. They forgot what it means to fight for survival. They forgot what Deathworld species never forget, that sometimes peace isn't possible. Sometimes you have to be willing to do violence to protect what matters. Keeper Thomas appeared on a smaller screen. Captain, what are you saying? I'm saying you need us, Elena told him. Not despite being Deathworlders. Because we're Deathworlders. We know how to fight. We know how to refuse to quit. We know how to turn anything into a weapon and never, ever surrender. She turned to her crew. Helm, take us back into the battle. Weapons, target the nearest architect ship. Show them what humans can do. Robert grabbed her arm. Elena will be destroyed in seconds. Maybe, she agreed. Or maybe we'll last long enough for other human ships to arrive. Maybe we'll last long enough to show the congregation that there's another way. That Deathworlders don't have to be conquerors. We can be protectors. The Endeavor turned back toward the battle. It was one small ship against an armada. But as Elena watched, something changed. Other ships appeared on the sensors. Human vessels responding to her broadcast. They were mining ships, colony transports, even a few outdated military cruisers. None of them were warships. But they came anyway. And behind them, moving slowly at first, the congregation fleet began to change its tactics. They stopped trying to outmaneuver the architects. Instead, they started fighting like humans, aggressive, unpredictable, refusing to retreat even when logic said they should. Mary's voice came through again, and this time there was something new in it. Oh, Captain Morrison, we're reading a massive energy buildup from the architect flagship. They're charging some kind of weapon. If they fire it, the entire star system will collapse. Elena felt ice in her veins. A star-killer weapon. How long? 10 minutes. Maybe less. Can you stop it? There was a long pause. No. We lack the courage to get close enough. That ship is too well defended. We would need to fly directly into their firing solution and our people. Mary's voice trailed off. We are not brave enough. Elena looked at her crew. She saw James, barely 25 years old, who joined the fleet to see the stars. Robert, who had a wife and 2 children waiting for him on Earth. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell at the helm, who always talked about retiring to a quiet colony someday. They were all looking at her. Waiting for her order. Ready to do what needed to be done. Then I guess it's a good thing, Elena said quietly, that humans are stupid enough to try anyway. She took a deep breath. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Follow the Endeavor. We're going to stop that weapon. No matter what it costs. The human fleet turned as one, charging directly toward the architect flagship. And somewhere in the darkness of space, The galaxy held its breath and waited to see what Deathworlders would do when everything was on the line. The Endeavor led the charge toward the Architect flagship. Elena watched as human ships followed her, knowing that most of them would not survive the next few minutes. Behind them, the Congregation fleet hesitated, then slowly began to advance as well. 30 seconds until they fired the Star Killer, James reported. His voice was steady despite the fear in his eyes. The Architect defenses opened fire. A mining ship to their left exploded. Then a transport. But the human ships kept coming, weaving and dodging in patterns that made no tactical sense. Elena realized they were using instinct over training, making themselves unpredictable. "This is insane," Robert muttered. "We're going to die." "Probably," Elena agreed. "But we're taking that weapon with us. Sarah, when I give the word, ram us straight into their charging port." Sarah's hands tightened on the controls. "Understood, Captain." More human ships fell. But others took their place. Elena saw a colony transport deliberately crash into an Architect cruiser, sacrificing itself to clear a path. A mining vessel used its industrial lasers, designed for cutting asteroids, to slice through enemy shields. "They're fighting like animals," she heard an Architect say over an intercepted channel. "No strategy. No logic. Just aggression and madness." "That's exactly right," Elena whispered. "We're persistence hunters. And you're our prey." The Endeavor broke through the defensive line. The flagship loomed ahead, its weapon glowing with enough energy to kill a star. 10 seconds until it fired. 9. 8. Then something unexpected happened. The Congregation ships surged forward with renewed energy. Keeper Thomas's voice boomed across all channels. "Enough hiding. Enough fear. The Architects took everything from us once. We will not let them do it again." Ancient vessels that had spent millions of years in stealth suddenly remembered what it meant to fight. They crashed into Architect positions with abandon. Mary's ship flew alongside the Endeavor, firing everything it had. "We forgot," Mary said over the channel, and Elena heard tears in her voice. "We forgot that sometimes survival means being willing to die for something greater." 5 seconds. 4. 3. "Now, Sarah," Elena shouted. The Endeavor dove toward the flagship's charging port. But before they could reach it, a massive Congregation vessel rammed into them from the side, pushing them away from the blast zone. Keeper Thomas had sacrificed his own ship to save theirs. For the future, his voice came through one last time. "For all of us." His ship struck the Architect weapon just as it fired. The energy backfired into the flagship itself. The explosion lit up the darkness like a newborn sun. The shockwave threw the Endeavor tumbling through space. When the systems came back online, Elena stared at the view screen in shock. The Architect flagship was gone. But so were dozens of other ships, both human and Congregation. The price had been terrible. "Captain," James said quietly. "We're being hailed." "It's the Architect Commander." The screen showed the half-mechanical creature again. But something had changed. Its glowing eyes looked tired. Ancient beyond measure. "Enough," the Architect said. "We have fought for long enough. We have been alone for too long. This revenge, it is hollow. It brings back nothing we lost." Elena found her voice. "Then stop. Please. No more death." "Your species destroyed our world," the Architect said, but there was no heat in the words anymore. Just exhaustion. "The Congregation destroyed your world," Elena corrected gently. "My species didn't exist yet. We're not your enemy. We're just trying to survive the same as you were." The Architect was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again, and its voice carried a weight of millions of years of pain. "What becomes of us now? We have no home. No purpose. We are the last of our kind, ghosts seeking revenge against the innocent." Elena took a breath. What she was about to say would change everything. "Come home. Come back to Earth." Robert grabbed her arm. "Captain, you can't be serious." "Earth is big enough for all of us," Elena continued, ignoring him. "We've preserved wilderness areas. Places where ancient creatures still live, where the world looks like it did millions of years ago. Share it with us. Teach us about the species that came before. Let us learn from you instead of fearing you." The Architect stared at her. "You would welcome us? After everything we have done?" "My species has done terrible things too," Elena said. "We've fought wars that killed millions. We've destroyed our own environment. We've made mistakes that nearly ended us. But we learned something important, that the choice to be better is always available. Even after the worst actions, redemption is possible if you're willing to reach for it." The silence stretched out. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. Finally, the architect spoke. No species has ever offered us mercy. No one has ever seen us as anything but monsters to be destroyed. Then let us be the first, Elena said. Let us break the cycle. Deathworld species don't have to be enemies. We can be allies, protectors, friends. The architect's image flickered. Then, slowly, it lowered its head in what might have been a bow. We accept. We will come home. The architect ships powered down their weapons. The battle was over. 3 months later, Elena stood on a hill overlooking a valley in what used to be called Montana. In the distance, she could see architects walking among the trees. They moved carefully, almost reverently, touching plants that were descended from the flora of their ancient world. Beside her, Mary glowed softly in the sunlight. The archivist had survived the battle and now served as a liaison between the congregation and humanity. The Veil Protocol has been dissolved, Mary said. Thousands of civilizations are emerging from hiding. They want to meet the species that showed mercy to their greatest enemy. They want to learn from the Deathworlders who chose peace. We're not peaceful, Elena said. We're just trying to be better than our instincts. That is what makes you remarkable, Mary replied. Not that you can fight. Many species can fight. But that you can choose not to. That you can offer kindness to those who hurt you. That is the strength that will change the galaxy. In Archive Prime, an archivist updated the records. Next to humanity's entry, where there should have been an extinction date, new words appeared. Status, active. Classification, Deathworld Guardian Species. Notes, they chose differently. They showed us that survival and compassion are not opposites. They proved that the strongest warriors are those who know when to put down their weapons. Elena looked up at the sky, where ships from 1,000 different civilizations now traveled openly. The galaxy was waking up. And humanity, the Deathworld species that everyone had feared, had become the bridge between the old and the new. She smiled. The future was going to be interesting.